This is the portion of the program I want to be very careful and clear about. We were recently made aware of an alleged vulnerability in the Dominion voting systems. It was mentioned in a federal court case. I have to tell you, I didn't even know how to begin to have a discussion on this. I'll start with this. We are not accusing Dominion of anything. We are not saying that this alleged vulnerability has ever been used or existed. In fact, I've got been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I have another t-shirt for you. We're not even saying that this will be used to manipulate the next election. We are doing one thing. We are highlighting something that was alleged in a federal court. We haven't seen anyone dispute it or even talk about the alleged vulnerability. Now, it shouldn't matter what side you're on. It shouldn't matter if you work for Dominion or any other voting machine company. You, me, everyone. We all want a secure election. We want there to be confidence on all sides when we vote. Talking about potential issues gets us closer to those goals. And asking questions used to be something that both the left and the right agreed together that we should be doing. I'm going to show you a transcript of a conversation on PBS regarding Georgia's voting machines. Two of the experts, Alex Halderman and Harry Hursty, said that they were potential vulnerabilities that attackers could take advantage of. Hursty said that Georgia's system was complicated and it doesn't seem to have any safeguards. If you're curious, Georgia's system is Dominion, the same system mentioned in the recent petition. Now, the alleged vulnerability is different, but here they are all freely talking about it. Take a look at this transcript. It was October 2020. Why was it okay for both sides to talk about it then, but hardly anyone will do it now? Harry Hursty is somewhat of a legend in the community that searches for vulnerabilities in electronic voting systems. He was featured in an HBO documentary explaining how he hacked a Diebold voting machine back in 2005 using a single memory card. I'll tell you the results of that hack later on in the program. But that election system, Diebold, was later bought in 2010 by Dominion. We don't know if this software is still in use, but the HBO documentary website mentioned that, as of several years ago, it was. Still used or not used, there is an interesting history here. The other expert featured in that PBS piece was Alex Halderman. Last year, he was given access to the Georgia Dominion voting machines to see if he could find any vulnerabilities. And he did. Halderman found Dominion's machines in Georgia are, quote, critically vulnerable to hacking, vulnerable to vote switching.
Oh, there's a shocker.
Dominion countered that the hack was unrealistic, but federal authorities found the same vulnerabilities, and more than 20 cybersecurity experts backed up Halderman's findings. Now, there was never any evidence that this was taken advantage of in an election. The worry is that this could be abused in future elections. So this is actually a good story. Everyone seems to be in agreement that the hack is possible, and we know about it in advance. So it should be easily fixed, right?
So what do we do about it?
All you have to do is upgrade the system before November, and it's over. Well, not so fast. Quote, some of the issues could be mitigated by upgrading the Dominion software, but Georgia officials say the upgrade is unrealistic, an enormous undertaking they won't start until after the 2024 elections. What? I mean, I hate to say that this gives the appearance that they're not taking the election security seriously. That's quite a quote. I only point out these recent vulnerabilities to show you that they have been found before, and that not only that, but the experts and the media used to talk about them all the time. Why is no one talking about this recent alleged vulnerability that was part of a suit petitioned to the Supreme Court but ultimately waived? Probably because the case was brought forth by Kari Lake, and it was waived off by the Supreme Court just this week. I didn't even want to touch this case at first because I didn't want this to look like something that was, for or against Kari Lake or Donald Trump or anything. I don't want to look backward. The past is the past, but we must fix the system if there's a problem. There was one specific allegation in the court documents that caught my eye. It was so technical and specific, I hadn't seen it anywhere. But this is an excerpt from the lawsuit that describes the alleged vulnerability. This is public. That's one reason why we wanted to do this show. You can read this for yourself, but I have to warn you. The nerd speak sounds like a mixture of Greek combined with Japanese. This is not something anyone and everyone could do. Luckily, I have my nerd speaker decoder ring. In a nutshell, here's what it describes. It describes how Dominion's democracy suite systems encrypt their data. An encryption key is needed to access the critical data. Some call it the God key. It should be kept encrypted itself. But in the allegation described in the lawsuit, it claims that on some Dominion machines, it's not. The allegation claims that the encryption key can easily be secured on the system, and that the only security safeguard is logging into Windows. This petition that makes this claim from March claims that a malicious actor could use this to, quote, gain total access and control over an election, end quote. Excellent. When you go to vote and you get a ballot, you mark your selections at the voting machine. And when you're finished, the machine prints the vote. You take that to a tabulator. An election official scans the ballot into the tabulator and records your vote. The information is later saved to a memory card, and that is taken to a computer. That computer is where this alleged vulnerability is claimed to be. How many people in the election office have access to that computer? What if the only guy with the key in that office is malicious? What if someone broke in? Now, clearly, this does not appear to be something that anyone could pull off. People without the proper skill could not do this. I couldn't do this. But what's being alleged would take some expertise, but appears that maybe the court filing described this alleged vulnerability as, quote, a bank telling the public that they have the most secure vault in the world, and then taping the combination of the vault on the wall next to the door. I'm going to show you some video here and some long disclaimers. Why don't you take the disclaimer? Because we asked a cybersecurity expert with knowledge of this allegation to attempt to recreate what was described in the court case. Could they do it? We asked them if they could use the same Dominion software, and then asked if they could screen record the entire process. So they did. Disclaimer, and then I think we have another disclaimer coming up. Yeah, so an additional disclaimer. Okay. This is the Microsoft admin computer. So you would log in here, put your password in, it would open up to this, then you would go into the tabulation, okay? Database does not require additional password once a viewer is logged into Windows. Okay, we're fine. All of this up there, it's all encrypted, you see? But the encryption keys are stored in this table right here in plain text. So they take the keys, this is the key to the main vault, and you cut and paste. You put the last one over here. Now watch what happens. When you put the keys in, here's the last one. This is what happens. All encrypted, you see, there's no information. Now you can decrypt the election files using the extracted keys and a few lines of code. Open. There's the encryption. Now using the keys, a description script is executed. And now I have the names. I have everything that I need. It's now decrypted. It's the knock list. It's out in the open. A user can run a script to re-encrypt it if they wanted to make any changes. The conclusion from the expert: with no password in just a few minutes with an election server, an individual can access the keys to the election.
Alrighty then.
Okay, well, that's one expert. We reached out to another software and security expert to see if any of these allegations appeared credible. Philip Davis. He has 45 years of experience as a software developer. He specializes in programming fingerprint software. He is an expert in security, regularly dealing with the information security challenges. His technical proficiency extends to analyzing fingerprint images. He's leveraged this technology to identify minute features on fingerprints for ballot image analysis. Philip is joining us now. Philip, can you explain briefly, and for nerds, for non-nerds like me, I mean, although I am a nerd, non-technical nerds, your background and expertise and how it qualifies you to do analysis on this?
Like I said, I've been doing fingerprints for a good 30 years. And fingerprints, you have to look at the little small minutia points on a fingerprint. Where does a line cross? Where does it break? That requires a lot of image processing. And image processing, loading up the images, writing software to analyze the images. And ballots are very much like that. You're looking for very specific points where a user would have drawn in a line, using optical character recognition to read what is on the ballot. What did the tabulator believe was the actual vote that they reported?
Okay, so have you ever worked on cybersecurity issues or analysis of elections in the past?
Elections, no. But in 3 years ago, I saw a video by David Cross showing 100 duplicated ballots in the Georgia election. And when he showed that, I just got banned on Twitter. I had a nice big following doing memes and videos. And they banned me for questioning the election. So I had some free time on my hand. So I downloaded all these ballot images and decided to start becoming a ballot expert and finding more duplicate images in Fulton County. So I've spent 3 years now writing software specifically for Georgia County. And now I've conducted 4 counties release their databases along with their votes. So we have 4 databases from Georgia alone to review. And yes, those passwords are inside of the Dominion, I'm not even going to use the word Dominion, I'm sorry, inside of the database. And they are open and free to read. And beyond what you reported, there are tables in that database. One of them is called tabulator user. And the tabulator user has a password for the tabulator stored. And that password to the tabulators can also be decrypted.
So this is not something, though, that I could do. What is your opinion on the official response? I don't know if you've seen it. Let me share it with the audience. We reached out. We asked 4 questions.
Yes.
Dominion official, does Dominion have an official response to this? Are your decryption keys protected by Windows login credentials? If so, is that normal? Do other companies do the same? If any of this is true, is this procedure for all of your voting machines, or is it just a few? Is the allegation correct that someone could easily control an election by taking advantage of this? If not, could you please explain? We thought those were reasonable answers or questions. They wrote one paragraph. The claim that access to any single credential could affect the result of an election undetected is implausible and conspiratorial. Dominion's machines are fully certified by the U.S. Election Assistance Commission. The elections are secured by many layers of robust operational and procedural safeguards, including auditable paper ballots that are overseen by local election officials. Do you have a response to that?
I absolutely do. And the key word is in that last sentence, the auditable paper ballots. And that's exactly what I did. I absolutely took every one of these counties, 80 of them, grabbed the paper copies, compared them to the recount. If anyone had tampered with an image, if anyone had changed the vote ballot and then re-encrypted it, I would have found it because the patterns wouldn't have matched. And what I've done was every time that you have a voting pattern, someone voted pure Democrat, I took and made a fingerprint signature from that. So basically, if you voted Biden, Ossoff, James, Mike, that was your fingerprint of that vote. I counted how many occurrences I saw in the original, how many occurrences in the recount, and compared them. Once I compared them, if any vote was changed, if anyone had gotten to the system and changed the image, the second count of those paper ballots would have flagged a change. And I did not see any of those. So they are correct in the fact that they create paper audit ballots. And that gives us a wonderful opportunity. For the future is what we're looking. How are we going to protect our elections? And that's going to involve very smart laws by our legislatures.
Okay.
Georgia is trying to pass laws that make all ballots and all cast vote records public so that person like me who does this as a hobby, can actually analyze and see what happened in Georgia and get the truth. They also want us to have watermarks on the paper. All these computerized ballots are identical. You could actually throw a ballot into a Xerox machine and make as many copies as you want because they're exactly pixel perfect the same.
Can any system be hacked or manipulated through a vulnerability like this?
Absolutely, and that's why it's really critical I highly recommend all counties counting twice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.